Hello and welcome back, my vixen. Sorry about the quality of the video. I am using my phone to record this, but I will try to do my best. So I wanted to do a comparison of this and last year's Inktober's, running by really quickly my thoughts while coming up with each of these drawings. To start with, we have Poisonous. This one actually was one of my most detailed ones of this, so I had done a lot of different textures for the smoky effect coming from the potion bottle and all of the poisonous things like mushrooms and such. I wanted to do hatching and different kinds of shadings throughout as well. Then we have day 2, Tranquil. I decided to do Vixie in her room with all of her things that make her happy, Tranquil. And then we have day 3, which is Roasted, which is Vixie by a campfire, and she turns around and her tail got set on fire. The hatching on this one I enjoyed a lot. The only ones I didn't like were these blocked-in shading sections. I probably could have cut those out and it would have made the illustration look a little bit more uniformed. Then day 4 we have Spell. This one I decided to make up my own magical runes for the spell book that she was using to kind of make these levitating items and herself levitate. And then we have day 5, which is Chicken, which this one I enjoyed making sort of like the term of "you're such a chicken," so Vixie is running away from a chicken, so 2 chickens in one. Then for day 6 we have Drooling, which is Vixie drooling over some fish as she likes sushi and salmon. And then we have day 7, which is Exhausted, which is where Vixie is accompanied by her sort of brotherly-like guardian named Dax, after pushing herself a little bit too far. And then we have day 8, which is Star, which I enjoyed the perspective of them, but I would have liked to have colored the star in all the way like how I did with their bodies being outlined, but nonetheless I still like the way these two were drawn. Then we have day 9, Precious, where I started using some colored markers to try to see, because they were ink markers I wanted to experiment. I did enjoy this, and Precious being that she is holding the world because the world for her is precious is sort of like a thing for me, as if not for the world that I have created for Vixie, I wouldn't be able to share these things with you guys. Then on to day 10, we have Flowing. This one was sort of Vixie floating along a river stream. I liked the texture here up until my pen started dying and it kind of faded, but I worked with the best of my situation and kept alternating the colors every so often to sort of create the flow from where your eye is drawn from the top to the bottom of the page. Then we have day 11, which is Cruel, which is where my character Dax is attacking Dangel because Dangel just showed up out of nowhere and kind of caught him off guard, and so Vixie is wondering what's going on, thinking that it's cruel of him, but as Dangel is sort of like a half-angel, half-demon creature that just showed up out of nowhere, he's not sure how to trust him. So then moving along, we have day 12, where it is Whale, where Vixie summons a giant whale, where she was trying to have a calming spell or something to get them to stop fighting, but instead she accidentally uses a creature summoning spell, which startles both of them and causes them to temporarily call a truce, which brings us to day 13, which is Guarded, where Vixie is trying to talk to Dangel, but Dangel is still on edge, unsure, and Dax is still being rather protective. Then we have day 14, which is Clock. This one was a bit of a stretch because I was going to have them inside of a giant grandfather clock with a lot of cogs, but instead they're just sort of searching and exploring, continuing their adventure to kind of figure out a way to communicate with Dangel to see where he came from and what they can do. Moving on to the next day, which is 15, Week was the prompt for this one. This one I was a little bit lazy. I do admit I got carried away with other projects at the time, so the Inktober being drawing one drawing every day was a little bit difficult from this point onward, but I still wanted to persist because I wasn't going to have like I did last year where I only got up to prompt 28. So for Week I did them kind of collapsing, slowly losing their energy. And then for the next one we have Angular, which was day 16, where Vixie, Dangel, and Dax are kind of like having different facial expressions that are shown through the shattered mirror-like pieces. We're absolutely shocked, angry, and surprised, or worried. Then we have day 17, which is Swollen, where Vixie has these sort of protruded shards of ice that are going through creating these swollen patches on her. Then we have day 18, which was Bottle, which this one I enjoyed the texture that I had created for the water-like substance on the inside, which is like a healing potion to kind of rejuvenate everything after everything that's been happening. And then moving on to day 19, we have Scorched, which this one is Dangel and Vixie sort of adventuring, and you'll notice that there is someone missing after this day. I won't spoil it until we get to it. But we have day 20, which was Breakable, which is Vixie and Dangel on this sort of icy landscape. I don't know why I just kept those two to be landscapes, but I thought it would be an interesting theme to kind of compare the two of like a desert and an ice thing. Then we have our missing character, Dax, who has been captured and is having life drained out of them, which is the prompt drain for day 21, where the energy and mana is being siphoned from him, and kind of shows with these lines, which is something that I enjoyed doing the texture of. It kind of looks like the body is in motion where the energy is being drained, and rather painful looking. And then we have sort of outside of the story that I was creating for this was day 22, which was Expensive, which kind of goes into my childhood of collecting fake coins and gems and stuff, but they were so expensive because they had no actual value, but they were so expensive. When I was a kid, I'd have buckets full of them. Then day 23, we have Muddy, which is Dax escaping from the area that he was in and trying to find his way around, but it's storming and can't find, calling out for Vixie. Then my favorite part was adding in another character of mine who wasn't going to originally until I was looking through my character sheets. This character is named Diz and is a demonic sort of otherworldly being that kind of feeds off of the energy and mana of others and can only be stopped by feeding it. And then Dax, of course, is running away, got the mud still on him, and didn't get very far, as this is the place where he was being siphoned energy from, but as you can see, is trying to escape. To not much avail, Dax did get hurt by it, a little bit of an Easter egg of the previous prompt, where basically Dangel, the prickly part of prompt 25 is where Dangel is using his tail, sort of like a spiked porcupine, to stop Diz, and sort of like prickly shield to defend in case Diz gets any closer, while Vixie is also worried about him and wants to heal him. Then we have the next one, Stretch, for day 26, where they're kind of just taking a pause, sort of like it's like a pause menu where there's stitches and bandages, and Dax and Dangel is kind of exhausted, and Vixie's just kind of stretching, practicing to make sure that everything will go smoothly from here. Day 27 was Thunder, where we have Dangel and Vixie not liking the sound of thunder, as Vixie has phobias of a lot of things, and thunder is the main one, where Dax is just trying to comfort and calm the situation. Then we have a Gift for the next day, 28. I got lazy and cut the shading on this one because of the day that I was doing this. It was just kind of a busy schedule for me, so I still wanted to draw it, though. I didn't want to fall behind. I at least wanted to make sure that I did draw it. So I have the gifts of where everyone is starting to get along, and they're just kind of sharing some items together. And then we have day 29, where Dangel has sort of like the theme was double. So I thought I would try to draw the two personalities that became the one, which, if you guys are interested in that, I will be making a comic about that, so you'll understand this more. Then one of my other favorites for day 30 was Jolt, creating this sort of ghostly creature that is sort of like scaring Dangel. Whether it's friendly or not will be up to you to decide, or myself when I later go into more depth on this character, because I like the design of this creature. I'm going to probably make more comics about that one. And lastly, day 31 of this year, I got a little bit rushed on this one. I didn't post this one to my Instagram, but I did finish it. I got through all 31 days. The slice was a slice of cake, which is a joke because Dax just couldn't let go of the fact that she summoned a whale instead of using a calming spell, and then Dangel cannot use his mouth because he doesn't have one to eat the cake. So then onward we have my last year's one, which did not follow the official last year's prompts, but I still did follow a prompts list for Inktober. So this one was last year's. I had changed my style so much within 1 year, so you'll see a lot of things that I have improved on and things that I could have improved on last year. that I learned from. So starting with day 1, this one is fall leaves. Then we have day 2, which was crow. And this one I enjoyed the shading. I actually did like solid block shading so that it would kind of turn out really interesting with the textures. Day 3 was pumpkin. I messed this one up because the guts and the shading were basically the exact same black and white solid shapes. I could have used hatching maybe for the shading instead. Day 4 was day 4 was treats. I wrote the wrong day there, but day 4 was treats, where it kind of like has all these sweets for Vixie in sort of like a cheapified form. And the next one, I believe, was brew or something of that sort. I cannot remember. I know it's not cauldron because cauldron was a later prompt. I just didn't write this one down. This one was one of my favorites because I experimented with color, but the only thing is these little lopsided shapes that I had tried to kind of fill in the gaps where it kind of looks like the body has like shading for something, but there's not really supposed to be anything there. And then we have the next one, which was day 6, which was mask, which was Vixie sort of carrying this mask over her with these sort of like feathered wings and this sort of like wispy texture in the background. This one I would like to try experimenting with shading again like this one. That is one thing I learned from last year to take away from all of this, including the shading of solid shading for this one, which is actually day 7, not day Z. I made a mistake there. My pen, I was trying to make a 7 and it made a Z. So this one was sort of like a spell book that she was using, which I actually took inspiration from this page to continue with the spell book for this year's Inktober. But I did enjoy this weird no-nose style for a sort of Neko version of Vixie. Then we have day 8, which was Black Cat. This one was not one of my favorites, but it was the most tedious sketching thing for the hatching fur that I had created. Then the next one was Candles, which I had done sort of like this summoning circle with Vixie in a slightly different style again. I changed her style tremendously because I wasn't really sure what I was going for, and I ended up making just kind of multiple different versions of her through this as sort of experiments. Moving on to the next one, we have Arachnid, which is what she had accidentally summoned, was this spider that was just gigantic. Then we have Graveyard, which is the next one. This one I did not like because I had just rushed this one so much that I colored in and added in so many different shading textures that it took away. And the funniest thing is this kind of looks like an aardvark to me, or an elephant silhouette. And the only thing that I did enjoy about this was this little bit here with the spider webs on this tombstone and this little like symbol of a cross with a cat. Then we have day 12, which was Bones, which this one I was experimenting on textures of the fur, which I did not like at all, with the sort of bones and fur that's sort of separated. And then we have the next one, which was Spirit, which this one I enjoyed again. I liked the ones where I had Vixie and sort of these weird styles that just sort of stood out to me. And this one was sort of like little wispy creatures for that one. Then we have day 14, Orange. At this point, I was going for character designs, and I was kind of giving up on trying to keep consistencies with the prompts. I just wanted to make something new on each page. The next one was for day 15, which was Black, so I thought I would draw a creature that has these ghostly eyeballs with these giant smile and claws sticking up out of the darkness. The pen did not want to cooperate. As you can see, you can see every single line of the marker. I'm not sure how to fix this besides the fact that when drawing with this, I had to draw while the ink was fresh, because this whole section here is solid because I was going with the marker, and then I filled in these other gaps afterwards, so I think the ink was kind of drying and some of the wet ink was overlapping it. Then we have day 16, which was Bat Wings. This one was experimental. I did not like the shading of the moon at all. I would take away the stippling or instead stipple in the spots for the craters of the moon. The one thing I did like was the veins of the bat-like creature that I had created. Moving onward to Insects was the next prompt, which I went full-on color palette of orange, green, and yellow here because I wanted to experiment with the pens that I had. The bee didn't turn out too bad, aside from a few textures of the black lines, and the beetle didn't turn out too bad. The grassy thing that it was supposed to be sitting on, I could have worked a little bit longer on. And then the next one is Cauldron, which this one I enjoyed the way I drew these little like bubbles and smoke coming out of it. If I did shade these, I would probably do very, very light shading of hatching around the edges to kind of make it look like the bubbles are three-dimensional to the smoke. Other than that, the textures on everything else I enjoyed, aside from this little section here that I could have done a little bit better. Then the next one was eyeballs. So I decided to draw mouths with eyes that were just kind of sticking inside of the mouths or outside of the mouths. And this one I enjoyed experimenting with sort of like a slimy mouth, a stitched mouth, a sideways one, a bunch of different ones. And then we have Monster for day 20, which was sort of this stitched up creature with these like shards for eye pupils. The only thing I didn't like was how thick I made the line for the jaw. But other than that, this creature was an interesting one. Moving on to my less impressive ones was more character designs that I messed up on, which was Curse, which was day 21, where I was trying to do a sort of shading to make it look like the cape was sort of solid in one spot and scattered shading in the others. And then I did two different textures for the cape scarf thing. I don't know what I was going for here, but the curse is the scarf that's around is sort of cursed and causes this character to get into a lot of trouble. This one was where I kind of gave up. Day 22. I was trying to draw an angry expression. When I tried to draw the same, I don't know why I put this line here. I was trying to do like I did here, but if I cover up this half of the face, it looks fine. So I'm tempted to just kind of go over it and maybe put like a little patch of white and just cover up this eyeball, maybe pretend the eye doesn't exist, but for this one it was poison, so I thought I would try to draw this like poisonous creature, but I messed up on the eye. So from then on, my confidence in this kind of shot down for the Inktober drawings, and my inspiration for phobia was just kind of dying out. So I just decided to draw Vixie in the darkness, because Vixie does not like the dark, and it is a big phobia of hers. And then the next one was day 24, which was Teeth, which this one was an experimental one. I did enjoy stippling on some of these, hatching on some of these. Others I kind of just gave up on trying to draw teeth. I wasn't sure. I could have been a lot more creative. Then I went for the sort of fan art route, which I wasn't planning on doing. I know that there's no limitations really for Inktober. You can kind of draw whatever you want as long as it's within the prompts and the ink guidelines, I think. You know, it's pretty okay. But this one, I don't know why. I was playing Slime Rancher and I wanted to draw the three slimes that I liked the most: the phosphorus, the cat raccoon ones, and the lucky one, which I've only ever seen one of these in my entire gameplay. Then day 26 was Demon. I wanted to kind of draw this sort of opened rib cage with these like guts kind of spilling out and the bones of the cape. Aside from the strange stipples that I had done throughout, it actually added a bit of texture that, looking back on it, doesn't look as bad aside from the bottom. I think that I like the way that this ended up turning out a lot more than I did when I first started. And on to the ones where I was slowly giving up and ran out of time. Reaper was this giant dragon, which the scales I'm not a fan of. I wouldn't have done them in this fashion if I were to do it again. And the wings, I would have colored them in more solidly to make it look like these holes are actually torn. And then the face as well. But then this was my favorite part. Just this tiny little knight trying to run away from this giant Reaper dragon with all these souls trapped inside of the beast. This was the last one that I did, and this one I kind of gave up on the most, but I enjoyed the creature's design. It sort of has like a insect human flesh looking design where there's glass going through to create the blood and different sort of like parts of the body. And that was where I had finished. I did not get to do day 29 or onward for Scream, but I do hope that this is sort of like an inspirational thing for you guys, because this was my first day for this year, and this was my first day for last year. And I ended up finishing all of the prompts all the way up to the last day. So I did skimp a few days, and I missed a few things here and there, but a few ideas came out of it that I really enjoyed from both years, and I wouldn't change a thing about it on either year. As much as I would love to go back and have recompleted the proper official last year's one, I did still partake in as many days as I could, and I improved on it this year by finishing to day 31, and I will try to do another one next year, and you guys can take a look and see of a 3-year comparison. You can look back on these videos, and then I'll do a sketchbook tour of next year's. So thank you guys so much for watching, and remember to stay crafty and have a great weekend, and I will see you all in the next Sketchy Sunday video.